This video is best viewed in full screen. Hello, and welcome to Chapter 3 of Learn C#. In this lesson, we're going to go through creating functions and creating functions with parameters and how to handle return types. A function usually looks like this. You have some return type, either void, int, string, or some custom class, a function name. Function names and parameter names have the same naming rules as variables and constants from the last chapter. And parameters have some type and then a name. And you can have more than one. They're comma separated. And for each parameter, you must specify the type for each one. If you do not want to have a return type in your function for your function, then you want to use void. There are two different types of void you can use, and they're both the exact same. Either void all small or void with a capital V. They both link to the same class in the system namespace. And if you do not want any parameters, you just put the opening and closing parameters thing. Unlike Visual Basic, you have to specify that. You have to put that in. To return a void type to stop the rest of the function from executing, then you just use the return with a semicolon at the end, like this in that mock function that I've written. And if you want to return a value, like let's say 1, you would use return 1, like what's right here. You can only return a value if your return type is something other than void. Otherwise, the compiler will spit out an error. If you return an int or any other number style variable, you cannot return a string. It's the same thing with strings. You cannot return a number or anything like that. C# is type sensitive. It's type sensitive, so you have to pass the exact same type or return the exact same type as return value. Parameters and functions. A function parameter is just like a variable, except for that it is initialized by it is passed to the function by the caller. Say you wanted to add two numbers, you had to have a function that added two numbers together. You would have two parameters of type int. Whoops. Damn it. Of type int. For this one, I put a return type of int, and then return num1 plus num1 plus num2. It is not uncommon to see that return like this, return, and almost like it's a function. Return is a function inside of parentheses. That used to be required in very old versions of C. Is not required anymore, but you still see it. It works just the same, and the compiler just handles it like arithmetic math. Alright, now we're going to go on to the code section of this tutorial. Welcome to the code section. In this section, as you can see, I have written two functions. One is called void function, and the other is called add two numbers. Now, as you can see, the void function doesn't do anything really. It just returns at the top, and The function is just designed to show you how to return a function before it hits the end. And below it is a console.writeLine that says this should not show. So if that string that says this should not show shows up in the command line, then we know something has gone wrong. And the add two numbers takes two parameters. One's called num1 and the other is called num2, and it returns an int value, which is just num1 plus num2. Now we're going to go to our main function. Don't worry about this red circle and the red part right here. I will get to that in a minute. But as you can see, I have a variable called value, in which gets assigned the return value of add two numbers, and I pass the number 1 and the number 2 as parameters. So it should return 3. Console.writeLine, it takes the parameter of value. We pass it the variable value, and it should display the number on the screen. Then we call void function, and then we wait for the user to press any key to continue. Okay, this red circle is a debugger breakpoint. It will stop the code execution at this point and allow you to determine where the code goes from here. So now we're gonna start debugging. As you can see, the command line popped up for a minute, and then it went straight to here. Now we have an arrow here, and in the debug section toolbar that's right here, it might be in a different spot for your version of Visual Studio. And I also have another debug down here, but this is way more advanced. We're just going to deal with the basic one up here. We're going to do step intos for now. So as you can see, it's moved on to the next code. Currently value equals 0. But if we step into it, it'll step into that function, and it'll now wind up down here. And as you can see, num1 equals 1, and num1 equals 1 and num2 equals 2. This feature, where it shows you what the value is actually a very good feature when you get into more advanced programming. I'll get more in depth on program debugging maybe a lot later. I might even put a tutorial on my other channel, because I classify debugging as a little bit more of an advanced thing, but the basics should be needed to know. You should know the basics of it now. Step into, and when we step into after the return, in void function I will show you actually that it'll jump straight to the end of the function and then go back. Oh yeah, that's right, we have to step past. Value now equals 3 for value. And now as you can see, the command line now displays the number 3. So our function has worked exactly as the way we have predicted it would. Now we're going to call void function, step into it. Now watch after I step after the return. It goes straight to the end. It actually skips over this section of code, which was what our warning was, and it's not in here. And then if you ever want to just continue the program without stepping through, you just hit this play button or click F5. Press F5 on your keyboard. And that's it.